Hey guys, so welcome to the chapter for algebra. Now the very first question says, Dusty was having some of his friends over for lunch. Now he needed to pick up some chicken pieces before they arrived. Now if he bought enough so they could have 3 pieces each, and also bought another 9 for himself and his brothers, write an equation that describes how many chicken pieces he bought. Now assume there are n friends are coming over. Now guys, again, a very typical sort of question when it comes to algebra. There are n friends. He bought 3 per friend. So 3 chicken pieces per friend. And then he bought another 9 for himself and his brothers. So if there are n friends, so let's work with some simple numbers. Imagine there were 4 friends coming over, and he bought 3 each. So in order to figure out how much he bought altogether, we would simply do 3 times 4. However, in this case, we don't know the number 4. We know that it's an n. So it will be instead 3 times n. So 3 times n will tell me exactly the number of chicken pieces that he has bought for his friends. On top of the 3 times n that he bought, he also bought another 9 for himself and his brothers. So the equation is 3 times n plus 9. 3 times n, guys, is simply 3n, because we know when it comes to algebra, we do not use the multiplication sign. The terminology is simply to have the number and letter written next to each other, just like that. So 3n plus 9 is the equation that describes how many chicken pieces he bought altogether. Now, let's move to the next question. So this question says, if a burger costs X dollars and a drink costs Y dollars, write an expression for the cost of 5 burgers and 6 drinks. And B is find the expression, or write an expression for the cost of 3 drinks. All right, so let's have A. So 1 burger is X dollars, and 1 drink is Y dollars. So if you were to buy 5 burgers, then he would spend 5 burgers multiplied by X dollars. So 5 times X gives me 5X. So that's how much he's spent on, or the dollars of 5X is how much he spent on the 5 burgers. Then he also bought 6 drinks. So he bought 6 times Y dollars, which gives me 6Y. So 6Y dollars is how much he spent on the 6 drinks. Now guys, if this is a little bit confusing, think about if that 1 burger was, say, $2 and 1 drink was $1. So to figure out how much he would have paid for 5 burgers, we would have simply done 5 times 2. And to figure out how much he paid for the 6 drinks, we would have simply done $1 times the 6 drinks. Now instead of the $2, we use X. Instead of the $1, we use Y. So in total, it cost him 5X plus 6Y dollars for the 5 burgers and the 6 drinks. Moving on to part B. How much did he spend for 3 drinks? Or write the expression for 3 drinks. Again, fairly straightforward. 1 drink is Y dollars. So 3 drinks would be 3 times Y, which gives us 3Y. So for the 3 drinks, he would have spent 3Y dollars. Alrighty, let's move to the next question. Alright, so this particular question says, to hire out a yacht, it requires a $4,500 deposit, as well as an hourly charge of $320. Write a rule that's used to calculate the total cost of hiring a yacht for M hours. So that's the important part, M there. So let me just quickly underline that so we remember. So we have M there. It requires $4,500 deposit plus an hourly charge of $320. And part B says, how much does it cost to hire the yacht for 6 hours? So let's have a look at part A. So it costs him $4,500 to hire the yacht plus an hourly charge. An hourly charge is simply a rate that he has to pay every single hour. And we're talking about M hours here. So he has spent $320 times M. because that's the number of dollars per hour and that's the number of hours. So think about it like if there were 4 hours and he's spending $320 per hour, that would be 320 times 4. Except in this case, we don't know that it's 4 hours. We simply know that it's m hours because we need to figure that out. So the part A says, write a rule that's used to calculate the total of hiring a yacht for m hours. So the total cost is equal to 320m, which is the hourly rate, plus the $4,500 that he spends. And then part B says, how much does it cost to hire the yacht for 6 hours? So now we can use the rule that we developed in part A in order to answer the question for part B. So cost, once again, is 320m plus $4,500 equals, now m is 6 in this case, so 320 times 6 plus 4,500. Now 320 times 6 gives me 1,920 plus the $4,500. So that's the $4,500 deposit, and that's the amount that he paid hourly. So $1,920 for the 6 hours. And together he paid $6,420. Now guys, I'll just put that straight into the calculator just to save a little bit of time. But obviously I would like you to do the working out in the corner here. So guys, I hope that was helpful. Let's now move on to the next question for algebra. Alright. So this question says, Michael and Betty want to buy a new computer. Michael has $300 less than the purchase price, while Betty has $730 less. However, if they pool their money together, they have enough to buy the computer. How much does the computer cost? Alright, so once again, let's denote a letter to the cost of the computer. So the computer cost can be, let's say, X dollars. So Michael has $300 less than the amount for the computer. So it's X minus 300 is how much Michael has, while Betty has $730 less for the computer. So X minus 730 is how much Betty has. Because remember, the cost of the computer is X dollars. Michael has $300 less, which is simply minus 300. Betty has $730 less, which is simply minus 730. Now, the next part of the question, which is a very important part, it says, however, if they pool their money together, they have enough to buy the computer. So, if we add up what Michael has and we add up what Betty has, we will have the cost of the computer. So, basically what this means is Michael plus Betty is equal to computer. So Michael in this case is X minus 300 plus, let's put this in brackets to make it a little bit easier to read. Then Betty is X minus $730. So that's Michael, that is Betty, and that is equal to the cost of the computer, which is simply X dollars here. Then we have X. Let's now use some different colors to indicate the like terms. So we have X and X, which are like terms here. And we have negative 300. So let me use a different color again. Negative 300 and negative 730 are the like terms as well because they're simply constants. So X plus X gives me 2X. Negative 300 minus 730 gives me minus 1030, which is equal to X. The next step for me is to take this particular number over to the other side. Now it's a minus on this end, so it's a plus on the other end. So this becomes 2x equals x, which is this x here, plus 1030. Then this x gets taken to the other side, becomes a takeaway. So 2x minus x is equal to 1030. 2x minus x is simply x equals 1030. So how much does the computer cost? The computer costs $1,030. So that was the process behind finding the cost of the computer. Now let's move on to the next question. Alright, So we have Bianca is B years old today. Her cousin Pauline is 8 years older, while her sister Kitty, is 5 years younger. Write an expression for Kitty's age. Okay, so we have A. So Bianca is B years old. Now for Kitty, let's call her K, is equal to whatever Bianca is, which is B, minus 5, because as it says, Kitty is 5 years younger. Now, part B says, if her auntie is twice as old as Bianca, how old is the auntie? Now, let's say the auntie is A. Again, Bianca is B, and the auntie is twice Bianca's age, so it's simply B times 2. Now, we know when it comes to algebra, we do not use the multiplication sign. So that multiplication sign simply goes away, and we are left with 2B. So, just like Kitty, so Kitty was B minus 5 years old, and then auntie is also 2B years old. And then finally, we have part C. If Bianca is 10 years old, find everyone else's age. So we have Bianca, who is 10. We have Kitty, who is Bianca minus 10. So we have B minus 5, which is simply 10 minus 5. So she is 5 years old. We have the auntie, who is 2 times Bianca's age. So 2 times 10, which gives me 20 years old. So the auntie is 20 years old. And finally, Pauline, who is her cousin, who is 8 years old. So Pauline is 8 years older than Bianca. So that's B plus 8, or 10 plus 8, which gives me 18. So Pauline is 18 years old. So guys, those were some really basic examples of what algebra is all about when it comes to problem-solving questions. Again, as you can see, they are fairly practical questions, so please do make sure that you have a go at them. Once you do become quite an expert in algebra, it'll make your life a lot easier in future grades. So guys, thanks for paying attention. Make sure you have a go at the worksheets where I've given you more questions to practice with, and I will see you in the next lecture.